People Talk on the day after the Bill 7 garnered enough votes for it to pass the third reading stage. And essentially what we're all now waiting for is the president to sign into law. Joining us this morning on the program, let's go ladies first. Madam Caroline Katotowe is the Executive Director of CSDG. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good morning, listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know I don't have you for too long. I think you've got an engagement at 9:30, but I do want to thank you for coming in. Either way, your voice is very important to this conversation. Mr. Isaac Mwanza is from the Zambia Civil Liberties Union. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Luchi, and good morning, all dear listeners. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you very much. And there is an empty chair in here. The reason why is because we are expecting Mr. Malisa to join us. He is a lawyer in constitutional law, and he should be joining us the next couple of minutes. I wanted to start off, and I don't want to get your reaction on Bill 7 because I think that's done and dusted now in terms of what people's thoughts are. But I don't have you for too long, and I do want to get into the crux of what is actually contained in the bill, because I think one of the things that we've done really badly in the past 3 months, 6 months even, is we've not explained to people the contents of the bill. We've been very focused on the process. There's been a lot of fighting about whether it's right or wrong for us to go ahead and do this. But the one thing we have not done is actually look at what is actually contained in the bill. I heard a caller on radio this morning on the breakfast show, and he was saying if you ask people what's in the bill, 9 out of 10 people don't know what's in the bill. So, Caroline, let me get your thoughts. I saw you on national TV yesterday, and you were talking about the beauty of what this bill means for women representation.
That's right.
How does Bill 7 respond to the challenges of women, youths, when it comes to entering into politics?
Well, that is a brilliant question, and I think we can never overemphasize the very essence of how transformative this bill is. For the longest time, of course, I'm representing the women folk. We have had marginalized groups such as women, we have had the people living with disabilities, and of course the youth not have a visible voice in Parliament where laws are being made. And it is only important and proper that these groups find their way on these tables where decisions are being made. And now, speaking to the bill itself, when you dissect and look at the proposed amendments, one of the proposed amendments speaks to this in terms of how members of Parliament, mixed member representation, proportional representation, and this is primarily a life-altering a bill. And I am absolutely excited and elated about it because we are now going to see what we have envisioned for the longest time since independence, a National Assembly which is absolutely representative of the constitution and composition of the people of Zambia. The people of Zambia, 20 plus million people, comprises of men, women, youth, people with disability. And now we are going to have that cosmopolitan mix when we are talking about National Assembly. And this is transformative, really. For the longest time, I'm sure being in the media, such groups have tried to fight tooth and nail to get that sort of recognition and to get a chance to be in Parliament where laws are made which, of course, affect all of us, women, men, youth, people living with disability. And so this is how transformative. I cannot belabor this point enough because it is very critical and cardinal that we understand how historical this moment is.
Okay. So one of the things the bill says that there will be proportional representation. So it says two things. It says that the electoral system will be done as follows. First, pass the post-electoral system for members of parliament contesting constituency-based seats. I think this is something that everyone is familiar with.
Yes.
And then it touches on what you've just spoken about, proportional representation electoral system for women, youth, and persons with disabilities as prescribed. It then further goes on to list how many members of parliament are going to be holding those seats under the proportional representation. So 20 women, 15 youth, 5 persons with disabilities. Now, my question is, how do we come up with these? How do we come up with these 20, 15, and 5?
Well, that's right. And I will not try to explain in detail this concept because, of course, some of the technicalities and guidelines are things that we are going to, develop in terms of how we proceed with some of these proposed amendments. And this is obviously something that has been proposed. But what I would place on record is we are looking at, obviously, when you talk about youth, when you talk about women, what we need to be cognizant of the fact of is that, look, within our society, when we say youth, youth is both men and women. When we talk about people living with disabilities, it's both men and women. So it is only proper that when we look at the ratios between men and women, what disparities there, you will find that the ratio to men and women in parliament is night and day in terms of, head and shoulder in terms of the gap. And so when we look at the 20, this speaks to the larger group of women. Mind you, these women, some of them may be youth, some of them may be, people living with disability, who again will be reflected within these other categories. So when we say 20 women, yes, 20 women, but when we say 15 youth, in that composition of 15 youth, remember, again, we will have men and women who are youth. And in this composition, again, of 5, we will still have men and women who are living with disability. So you find that at the end of the day, this is a win-win for all categories, because we are talking about, yes, people living with disability, we have 5. And when we talk of the 5, we are saying, okay, out of the men and women of this nation, because the first parameter is men and women. That is how we are classified. We are not classified as anything else. And so the first parameter is men and women. So we are saying out of these men and women, 5 of those men and women living with disability will represent that category, which in my understanding is quite a good representation. And then we are saying out of the men and women of this country, 15 of them will be youth, men and women, which is again another good representation of the youth folk. Then out of the larger components classification, which is now men and women itself, 20 women. You'd obviously expect it to be much larger because we are looking at a bigger bracket now. It's men versus women, or women compared to men. And so that is how this is arrived at. But again, like I said, I think we have been privy to have a government that is listening, that is inclusive, that is consultative, and I'm sure moving forward, we will be given proper guidelines in terms of how some of these things will work out, but also the doors are always open. That is one thing we have come to appreciate as civil society. The doors are always open in terms of interrogating the nitty-gritties. But right now we are in celebration by mere fact that we are even talking this conversation right now. This is a conversation we should have had many years ago. 61 years later, we thank God that we're having it.
Okay. Isaac, you were part of the technical committee, going around the country, getting views. Within your own deliberations, was this at all a conversation that came up in terms of how do we arrive at mixed MPR, mixed proportional representation, and how do we get this 20? Where is it derived from? How does it work in other countries, especially when you consider that you've got 2 systems that are running in parallel?
So thank you very much, Luchi, and I'm glad that we have a woman who was very passionate about women representation, and she has said it all about how women feel now about this provision enacted into law. Now, the technical committee, I'm not a spokesperson of the technical committee, but I can tell you to say that when we went round, the theme amongst many Zambians, women, young people, persons with disabilities, even the MPs themselves, councillors, was a talk about let's have more women, more youths, and more persons with disabilities. Numbers were suggested by various people. Different people suggested different numbers. And it was up to the committee to come up with the suggested numbers for the MPPR. You have to understand that first there was a proposal on the table. Government made a proposal, and we had to look at that proposal and say, is this proposal realistic? What has been the complaint around this proposal? So we had to adjust to ensure that it meets the expectations of persons with disabilities. Instead of 3, you increase it to 5. You also increase the number of youths. In our view as a technical committee, I'll tell you, you have read our report. It's in public domain. We had actually proposed to have 12 persons with disabilities, 12 youths, and 16 women, just to ensure that these numbers balance up. But as it is the case with every constitutional amendment, when you submit a report, what government does, what the National Assembly does with that report, it is up to them. It's part of the democratic process, where now they would have to debate and see what is feasible. And what we have seen now is the government proposing to have 20, and that has been adopted for women. And government proposing 14, is it 14 for the youths, yes, which has been adopted, as well as 5 for the person with disabilities. For us, this is a good start. You know, there is no formula that you can use to come up with these numbers. But for a start, it is good that we have this system, and we can continue perfecting it. But what is more important, Ruchi, which politicians must not miss, is that our women are not just going to go for those seats. We want our women to also go for constituency-based seats. Because here we're talking about increasing the number of women, increasing the number of youths and persons with disabilities. So we are looking forward to the enactment of the political parties bill, which will compel the political parties to adopt more women, even on the constituency-based seats, apart from them saying, no, you already have your seats. Because we don't want this attitude where when the adoption begins, then they would say, no, women, you already have your seats, so we are going to adopt only men on these other seats. So we need the political parties bill that will compel the political parties to adopt more women, to adopt more youths, and to adopt a good number of persons with disabilities on their seats. But what is novel with this bill as well, which you will see, Luchi, is that the first Bill 7 had contained only proportional representation for the National Assembly.
True.
When the technical committee gave their report, government took into account what the technical committee gave and said, no, we need to extend this to the councils. So when you read article, the enacted Article 47, it will tell you to say there will be proportional representation in the councils, where there are those ward-based seats, where they'll be elected as it always happened, and then there will be PR seats for youths, women, and persons with disabilities. Where are the numbers for those? You will see that the bill does not contain the numbers because of the diversity of each council. You might find that a council in Mongo has 12 councillors, 12 wards. A council in Lusaka has 30. So if you are going to fix those numbers in the constitution, you are merely imposing on the councils that have the diversity and different numbers at the same time. So for us, this is a good start, and we hope that there will be legislation now that will be put in place. For instance, a local government act would have to be amended to ensure that it reflects a mixed member proportional representation in the councils. So that is the progress that we have tried to make. And this is how this bill has been refined this far, Luchi.
Caroline, I know, again, I don't have you for too long.
That's right.
And I do want to respect that you need to leave in the next couple of minutes. But do you see any challenges going forward, even with the passage of bill? Do you see any challenges, going forward with this from civil society who might come in and say, listen, we don't like the fact that there are X number of people that are living with disabilities, or there are X number of youths? Where do you see the challenges going forward?
I'll be honest with you as I answer your question. Primarily, I do not envision any challenges. I think the biggest challenge that we felt or we seemed to have had was the one that we are coming from, to gain some sort of traction, to gain some sort of progress when it came to, the bill itself. And it was important then to underline or underscore certain things that we had to put in place to have healthy dialogue. And these were achieved in the sense that nobody felt left out. We had the convergence of ideas. I think it was a battle for ideas, really. It was not a battle for political parties or political affiliation. It was not a battle of you versus me on personality aspects. It was a battle on principle, on facts, on what this bill speaks to.
Do you worry about the cost though? Because I one of the things I've even post yesterday's vote was a lot of people talking about the cost. Now, Isaac brings up an interesting point about mixed proportional representation even within the councils. I think maybe that's something that some people may have missed. But
Right.
what you're now doing is you're now bloating government expenditure. Does it worry you a little that costs will now go up?
Well, not all. And here's why. When this government took over in 2021, some of the reforms or some of the actioning that we saw was not having a blotted cabinet. I think if you do your comparisons correctly, you will see that the cabinet positions is not as blotted as we saw in the past. And of course, this is all being channeled towards, cost-saving measures and proper utilization of public resources. But then, so already from that front, monies have been saved, and we're talking 4 years in now. Into the operations of the government. And so that is a huge saving already, and we've seen how there's been prudent utilization of resources. Moving forward, this is an undertaking that is necessary. I think when we look at the cost-benefit analysis, it is important to bring into this conversation that when you do your cost-benefit analysis, the benefits outweigh the costs by far, very far, because what we are saying is, look, why have a government in the first place if the government is not effective, number one? Number two, it's not efficient. How do we improve efficiency and effectiveness? We improve efficiency and effectiveness by ensuring that we are able to have people within these offices of government that are able to provide services, for example, to expedite processes within the government. And so when you talk about having more, we are saying the more the merrier, in the sense that the more will translate into development for this country. I think we need to address and look at it from those lenses. So if you were to ask me, if I had to spend an extra kwacha on something that will keep giving, that will benefit me for the longest time to come, I would say that is a good investment. It's value for money, and this government is cognizant of that, and they realize that, and that is why as civil society we support it.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go, Carolina. I know I don't want you to be late.
Yes, I
so
appreciate your indulgence.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in, even though not too long. But thank you very much. Thank you so much,
Thank you to listeners.
Thank you so much. Mr. Malisa also joins us. He's of course a lawyer, in constitutional law. Mr. Malisa, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Very
Thanks
good.
for inviting
Yeah,
me.
no, thank you so much for for coming in. So I want to begin in terms of yourself. So what I have in front of me, I have bills, the actual bill itself, and then I have the notice of amendments. This was issued by the Minister of Justice yesterday. So these are the amendments that would then be slotted into Bill 7 itself. Now, Mr. Malisa, you found us in the middle of a conversation about mixed member proportional representation. So I have a question. I have a legal question.
Okay.
Shouldn't we now know the hows? And when I say the hows, I mean, for example, how exactly is mixed proportional representation done? How exactly, how do we go forward? How do you explain to people? How do you explain to voters? How do you share out to political parties?
Okay.
Yeah, shouldn't that be prescribed so that everybody has a no? Even when you look at the limitation itself of constituencies, we still don't know the hows. Not just the hows, but the wheres, the whos, which constituencies? Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit of a loaded question, but I think it's important for us to get some form of understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you and good morning, listeners. I think a starting point is that Bill 7, as soon as the president signs it, becomes part of the Constitution, right? And all of us have a duty to defend and protect the Constitution as it is, right? So the debate regarding Bill 7 and all those things now, I think now it's in the past now. Because if you look at Article 1(4) of the Constitution, it says the validity or legality of this Constitution shall not be subject to any challenge. The Constitution cannot be challenged, right? So the moment the President puts pen to paper on Bill 7, then we can't challenge it because it's part of the Constitution. So we move on from there. We go on now to the specifics of what is happening. So your question is, how is the proportional representation going to be done? It's there in the clause itself. I don't know which clause it is, but when I read it, it said that they are going to be apportioned according to the presidential votes.
Okay, so I've got it here.
Yeah.
The seats under the proportional representation electoral system referred to in clause 2B and 3C shall be distributed as prescribed after a general election by the Electoral Commission to political parties in proportion to the total number of valid votes received by a presidential candidate.
Perfect. So what that means, first, the words as prescribed used in the Constitution mean that an act of parliament will be passed which will detail now, because you can't put everything in the Constitution. So the Constitution there, it expressed it in an abstract form. So what they're saying is that the results of the presidential election are going to be used to allocate the seats. But the House and the nitty-gritties are going to sit in an act of parliament. So parliament has got a job now to put regulations or whatever they're going to put in that act on how it's going to be done. But if you're saying using presidential numbers, let's say, for example, if you take last year's election, I think President HH got about 56% of the vote. So if you have we have how many seats? 40 proportional representation seats. So what is 56% of 40? That's about 23, 24. So which means that if we're using last election's results, then the party, UPND, they'll have a list. So from their list, you pick 23 names, maybe the first 23. 23. Those are the ones we get. Okay. So the Act of Parliament maybe will segregate to say these are the list for women, this is the list for youth, this is the list for persons with disabilities. So if you say 56% of women, 56% of youth, 56% of persons with disabilities, that's how it works. That's how a proportional representation system works.
So what if you had, and I'll just go down, right? So you've gone to the very top, 56%. What happens at the bottom? What happens to, like, for example, the 0.1s, the 1s, the 2s, the 3%? Is that you follow? Would you then follow the same line?
Yes. What is 0% of? What is 0% of 20?
0.1%.
Yeah.
It would
so
still
if
be zero.
If it brings a 0, then it's 0. If it brings a 1, it will be 1. Yeah, that's how it works. So you use that number. So whatever percentage you get, if you get 2%, if 2% amounts to a seat, you will get that seat. So from last year's elections, I think all the other parties got less than 1% of the vote, which means using the proportional representation, they'll get nothing. So maybe this is an incentive for political parties to do well, because now it gives them a chance. Even if you can't get a constituency-based seat, but if you do very well on the presidential score, and let's say you get maybe 20% of the vote, and then it means you get 20% of the proportional representation seats, which amounts to something, I guess. Yeah.
Is this how it's done elsewhere?
Yeah. I want to first commend my brother here.
I mean, by the way, he's explained it very well. Thank you so much.
Yes. He has,
because I was very
well.
confused.
Yeah, he has explained it very well. And for me, I would take it further. He has said there is need for a law, subsidiary law, because of the words as prescribed. Now, this is where the work must be done. This is where members of parliament must both from the opposition political parties and the ruling party, must put their heads together. Even the government, they need to out on this system on how we can make it work in the best manner possible. For instance, Luchi, we have been talking about regional balancing. And if you look at the 20 that has been provided, we can put in an act of parliament, regional balancing for the 20 women, where you are going to have 2 women from each province that are picked, okay? So it means that you have everybody, every candidate from a province amongst the 20. You have the youths who are about 14 or so, if I'm correct, or 15, 15. You can also allocate in such a manner that these are picked by political parties from across the provinces. But what must be clear is what my brother has said, that political parties will be able to produce a list of 20 women, UPND, 20 women, NAREP, 20 women, a Socialist Party, etc., etc., and give it to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Now, the vote to be distributed in accordance with the presidential vote. Is that the best system? Probably for me, it would not have been the best system. That's for me and the Zambian Civil Liberties Union. The reason why we are saying using the presidential ballot might not be the best is that there are certain political parties, Luchi, that would feature parliamentary candidates, but would not feature a presidential candidate. Now, these are parliamentary seats we are talking about. The calculation should have been based on the parliamentary seats, the number that you get on the parliamentary seats. But that is work in progress. We can improve on that in future after testing how it works with the presidential ballot. But to be fair with all political parties, if you are going to use the presidential ballot, it means that those political parties that do not feature a presidential candidate, they would not benefit from this provision. That is where the problem is. Means that we are now promoting having more presidential candidates on the ballot because everybody would want to get the mixed member proportional representation. So that is the sad part about it. It would have worked best if you promoted the parliamentary system where people would say, okay, let's compete at parliamentary level and bring our efforts together as political parties, as alliances, to ensure that you can give a good force to the ruling party, you know. So that is a system that I believe should have been utilized, but that's water under the bridge. The issue is that we must test this system, how it will work at the presidential level, if it will benefit only the like he has said, if you looked at the presidential vote for last year, everybody got 1%, 1%, means that it's possible that the 40 seats would not have gone to them. They would have gone to the person who had more votes, the ruling party and the then ruling party, the PF. Those are the people that would have shared these seats in parliament and not these other political parties. So what am I saying, Luch, is that we need a law that will go into the detail of how this thing must work, how we are going to promote regional balancing, how are we going to pick the 5, where are these 5 persons with disabilities going to be picked from? Should political parties just pick from within Lusaka, or how is it going to be done? How are they elected within their political parties? Also, we must go down to that. If you look at the systems in other countries, you have an independent electoral commission of Zambia that would supervise these internal elections for electing these people that are going to be on the party list, who are going to be nominated. Our system, do we have enough safeguards in our political parties to ensure that internal democracy, internal elections work out to produce the best candidates that would be featured on the ballot? Or it would be about patronage, where we can just pick that woman, she's too vocal. Even if she's not intelligent, we just pick that woman, we just pick that man, and then you send them to parliament. So we must have a system where merit is going to be considered when adopting these candidates, nominating the candidate, and that must go into the subsidiary legislation. So this is where I think that our members of parliament must pay focus pay attention to these issues. Because if they continue boycotting, we are getting into an election. And they'll be shocked to see what electoral law we are going to come up with as a country, you know, without their input. And this electoral law is simply passed by a simple majority in parliament. So it is time for
whether
them.
You're in or out.
It is time for
whether you
exactly.
abstain or not. Okay.
So it is time for them to, you know, we must discard this issue of hatred and the trolling in this country. Hatred and trolling, we must discard it. Let us put our national interest first now and say there is a constitution, like my brother has said. Yes, those that want to challenge the process, the Meander case said you can challenge the process. That's fine. You can still go ahead and challenge the process. But we would have a constitution which is binding on every person, every institution. The best we can do going forward is for these opposition political parties to now sit on the table and say, this is how it should work out. Because if we go to an election where they do not make an input, then they will start crying to say this is what the UPND wanted. When the UPND still have their doors open, where they can sit down and talk.
Was it?
And this should not be about UPND. It should be about us, Luchi, the people of Zambia.
Again, I'm just going to go back to the notice of amendment. So one of the amendments that the Minister of Justice spoke about yesterday, just in line with proportional representation, she said a nomination for a seat under proportional representation electoral system, referred to in Article 47(2)(b), is valid if a prescribed election fee is paid to the Electoral Commission. Does that? Again, because I think wasn't the whole idea of mixed proportional representation a way of getting people that are a little disadvantaged, but now you're still asking them to pay a certain fee? Does that then hinder what you're trying to achieve in the first place?
So the question is, who pays the fee? And this is where we must get it correct. The political party is the one that nominates these candidates.
So the political party would
a political party must pay. How they generate that money, whether they are going to charge it to the candidates. Of course, you expect in a democracy that people are going to contribute in political parties, you know.
But it doesn't say that, Malisa. Sorry, you're the lawyer here. It doesn't say that, does it?
It
doesn't say that the political party will pay.
Yeah, but what he's saying is correct, because from what I saw from the report of the technical committee, they spoke about a party list.
Yes.
So a party list comes from a political party. So it only follows that the person who is submitting is the one who's supposed to pay. But that as it may, the subsidiary legislation which we are talking about is the one which should take care of this question that you're asking, to say who is supposed to pay and how much. That is going to sit in the prescribed the act that the constitution is demanding. So it's giving the work to Parliament now to say, like I said, all these nitty-gritties that you're talking about have to be captured in an act of Parliament. Yeah. So how much, who's going to pay, how are they going to pay, what is the ECZ supposed to do, how is the nomination supposed to be done, all that is going to sit in the act. Or I don't know if it will be an amendment to the Electoral Process Act, or it will be a new act on its own. So that is up to Parliament and the executive to decide how they're going to go about it.
Okay. What about? Let me ask you about delimitation, because again, that's one sticking point.
Okay.
So there's no real mention of delimitation within the notice of amendments. All it says is that there will be a specific set of seats.
Yeah.
From a legal perspective.
Yeah.
Was this done the right way? Seats will be split before they can then say, okay, let's go ahead and have 257 or 280 seats.
Okay. I'll start from, you asked the legal question, and then I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah.
Article 58 is the one which talks about delimitation, right? So I think it's Article 58(2), which says that the number of constituencies should be the same as the number of seats, of elected seats in the National Assembly. So what it means is that right now we have 226 elected seats, which means any delimitation that will happen should be within the confines of these 226 seats. Okay, so what delimitation means, it simply means that you deal with the names and the boundaries, okay? But whatever you are doing about the names and the boundaries, you should not exceed, or it should tally with the number of fixed seats, right? So your question was, would it have been good to know where these additional seats are?
Yeah.
I think even Isaac would agree with me. That is the ideal situation.
Okay.
It would have been nice if we knew where the additional 76 elected seats are coming from, right? Then it gives us an idea of which ones are the constituencies that need to be divided, which ones are boundaries supposed to shift. Because I want to correct one thing. Delimitation is not just about increasing constituencies. You can actually shift the boundaries.
Okay.
If you see that a lot of people have moved from this area to this area, like, for example, here in Lusaka, most people now don't stay within the boundaries of Lusaka. Most of us stay in Chongwe, Chilanga, Chiwombo, right? So if you do an analysis of the movement of people and find that Lusaka itself, right, Lusaka district, now has less people, most people are now in the outskirts. So the ECZ can actually shift the boundaries and say, okay, this constituency, we're moving this boundary this way. So that is what delimitation is all about. So it would have been good if we had the delimitation report, because that is the basis. But that as it may, the constitution has already been amended. So we have 226 seats. So what the ECZ has to do now is to do their delimitation exercise to align with these 226 seats that are supposed to be allocated or that are supposed to be contested for in an election. Yeah.
There is a possibility, and you can correct us all if I'm wrong here, but I believe the constitution also says that you're free to challenge.
Yes.
Just explain the thinking behind that.
Okay. So yeah, that's Article 58(7). 58 sub-article 7. It says a recommendation of the ECZ can be challenged by any person in the Constitutional Court. So what it means is that now we know that there are 226 constituencies, right? So the ECZ is going to produce a report, I guess, or a recommendation to say these 226 constituencies should look like this. Right? And by assumption, that report is going to be made public because there's an avenue in the Constitution that we can challenge it if we want. So once that report is produced and then we see the 226 constituencies, if you, Luchi, or Isaac here has got a problem with that recommendation from ECZ, he can take it to court and the court will have a final say. But the numbers will not change. There will be 226. You can contest to say, no, maybe there should have been 5 constituencies in Lusaka or whatever. The court will decide. So that is the avenue that is given. So the reasoning behind it is like, I think the spirit of the Constitution is trying to promote a participatory democracy. Yeah. So it means you as citizens have a say in what happens. It is not entirely up to the government and ECZ to play around with constituencies without having a say from the citizen. So if citizens are not happy, they are free to take it to court. And the court will have a say and to say, okay, do it again. Right?
Do the entire exercise again.
No, whatever
or
you're
just,
challenging.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, because you can't challenge the whole thing.
Okay. You can't challenge the entire report. You can only challenge, for example, and say in Lusaka there shouldn't have been 1, there should have been 2.
Yeah, I don't think it would be practical to challenge the whole exercise. You can't say everything is wrong, right? There are certain elements that you challenge. Just like the same Bill 7 which led to the amendment. Substantially, right? There are certain things that I did not agree with, and then there are certain things that I did agree with. So it's not possible that everything that is done is wrong. Okay, it's not possible. So even when you're talking about this delimitation exercise, right? There might be something I'm from Chongwe, I would say, I think Chongwe should have had 3 constituencies. And then ECZ says there are 2. Right. So I can challenge it from that point. I can't start going to challenge in Munilunga where I do not stay, which does not affect me. You get that. Then I'll be being frivolous in that manner. Yeah.
Yes, Isaac, you want to make an addition?
Yeah, so you see, Luchi, what has happened in Parliament must be read together with must be understood together with the report of the technical committee as well as the proposals that government had made. Government had made a proposal to say we want to increase by 55 new seats. I don't know where those seats were allocated, and I can't justify it personally. But the technical committee appeared before the parliamentary committee, and they were asked a question to say, you have proposed that the number of seats increase from 156 to 226. What is the rationale for this increase? And the answer is in the report of the technical committee. The technical committee recommended that there must be at least 7 new constituencies in each province. 7 new constituencies in each province is 70. Now, 70 you add to 156, it will give you 226. There is a report that has been leaked to the public, the 2019 report. I'm sure this is in public domain. And you see that under the Patriotic Front, when they did the PF regime, they did delimitation in 2019. The minimum number of constituencies which were supposed to be increased in every province was 7. So it had 10 in, for instance, I'll read them out. Central Province had 10. Copper Belt had 15. Eastern Province 12. Luapula Province 7. Lusaka Province 19 new constituencies. Muchinga 6. Northern Province 8. Then you had 9. So the minimum number that comes to 94 was 7. Forget about this 5. I was reading the population in those constituencies. So if you look at the minimum number in that report, it was 7. So it is possible to do delimitation in all the constituencies and fairly. Okay? And that is where that provision which my colleague has read out, which you asked him to say, can you challenge the delimitation? So you can go to court if you find that Lusaka has been given 19 and there's no delimitation in Eastern Province. You can take the technical committee report and say, here is a report, they said 7 per province. But Lusaka has been given 19 and Eastern Province has none. So the court will look at it and will look at the report and they'll make a decision. So this is where the 226 number came from, and the spokesperson of the technical committee made it clear to the committee that in the report, 7 was recommended as a minimum per province. And this aligns with what the previous regime, the previous commission did to say there must be 7 minimum in a constituency. So to us, we think that it's a settled issue. It's a settled issue. It's a question of how will government proceed at this point. Will they use equity to distribute these constituencies? Because you realize to say certain provinces, for instance, they had been lagging behind with delimitation. They're even much more vast. Are they going to say, instead of using the recommended criteria by the technical committee, can we use the principle of equity so that Eastern Province maybe might have 9 and then another province would have 6? Okay, so that is another thing, but that can also be challenged in court because people have a right to challenge in court. So everybody must be vigilant. Everybody must participate now. This is why for me, I'm asking the opposition political parties, go sit down with government. You have a new law. You have reports of both the technical committee and the parliamentary committee. Sit down and be able to say, let us talk as to where these constituencies are going to be. In future, Luchi, this country needs a delimitation act that should provide the details, sufficient details of how delimitation was going to be done, who was going to be consulted, how transparent the system must be. That is what is missing. If anything, I don't know, we decided to have ECZ as a delimitation commission, when in the past the recommendation was to have a separate delimitation commission. But probably the government looked at it from the cost point of view. If you are going to be doing delimitation 10 years, every 10 years, why would you need a permanent commission? But probably we can have an ad hoc commission that could be put in place to ensure that they supervise delimitation. And it should be representative of all the political parties and other stakeholders, civil society and government, to be part and parcel of that. That is what I think is going to resolve this issue of delimitation.
Okay. I want to ask, Malisa, I want to ask you this. So, in Article 58 of the Constitution, it says names and details of the boundaries of constituencies and wards shall be published in the Gazette, shall come into effect on the next dissolution of Parliament or councils. Please just explain this to the layman. What's the thinking here? Okay, especially in terms of, what just transpired yesterday.
Okay, so what it means is that the names and boundaries of these 226 constituencies have to be gazetted so that the public knows by the time Parliament is dissolved. So Parliament is dissolved 3 months before the election. So that will be May, June, May. Yeah, it will be in May. So in May, by May, we should have a gazette notice of where these constituencies are and what are their boundaries. So I guess it's a preparatory thing because that 90 days is the time that people use for campaigning and what. So the public should know where their polling stations are, which constituency they are voting, and the political parties also should prepare. Say, we're fielding candidates in these places and these are the boundaries. Yeah. So by putting in a gazette, it means that it's an instrument of government. Whatever government does, it gazettes it, which means now it's a proclamation. It has been made public for the public to know.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I also want to ask you. So a lot of people and are reading Bill 7, right? Because that's the one that you can find,
online.
publicly online, right? And most people don't have the notice of amendments.
Right.
I only got it from a source who shared it with me yesterday in the morning. But what's the best way? At what point do they put everything together? So I know it's a terrible question, but at what point do they put everything? Because yesterday I was having an argument with someone online who was saying to me that, listen, one of the things that's in Bill 7 is that Parliament will be dissolved a day before, and I said, listen, that's not true. In the notice of amendments, that's been changed, and he didn't believe me. Because all he has is Bill number 7, which is publicly available. So at what point does that happen?
Okay, so you have Bill 7 because it was gazetted, right? So when the government, the Article 79 demands that the bill is gazetted at least 30 days before it is read in Parliament. So it was gazetted. That's why you have it, right? So then it went through this process. Right, there was input now because when you're gazetting the bill in itself, it's still a bill. It has to go through the Article 79 process. It has to go to Parliament. It has to be subjected to the Select Committee, and then it has to be subjected to debate in the Parliament. So these notice of amendments were actually proposals that were being made to amend the bill, right? And if you followed the proceedings from Parliament yesterday, is that different MPs were debating their position to say, no, I want this article to be amended like this, okay? And then the House votes, do we accept the amendment or not, right? So those notice of amendments were merely proposals to amend the bill. Now, when those amendments are accepted, it means now the bill is altered now to reflect the amendments that were proposed by the members, right? And then the House votes to adopt it. So now the bill that is adopted, which now will become an act once the president signs. Now those amendments which are in the notice of amendments, those which were accepted by the House, will be inserted into the bill. Those which were supposed to be deleted will be deleted from the bill, right? So it will start looking different. Now, then it will be taken to the president. So once the president signs, it's going to be gazetted as an act of Parliament, and all of us are going to see it from the Parliament website, from the government gazette, from all that. So tell your friend that the issue of by-elections, the original text of Bill 7 on by-elections was deleted because that is what the amendment which was proposed to Parliament, and Parliament accepted that amendment. So what it means is that from the notice of amendment, the notice of amendment was accepted. So which means from Bill 7, that clause on doing away with by-elections was deleted because that is what the amendment suggested. So when we see now the act I don't know, it will be Act number what of 2025. It will show that the issue of by-elections is not there. It's not part of the constitutional amendment.
Can I ask you what? Because you said one of the things you said, and I don't know if our listeners picked up, but you said there were elements that you supported, and there were elements that you didn't support.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what elements you didn't support?
Okay.
That ended up, that
Sure.
may or may not have ended up being removed in yesterday's notice of amendments.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. From the substance
from
point,
yes,
from the substance point. Okay, that one on by-elections, I did not support it, and I'm happy that it's gone because I thought that we have a direct representative democracy where if I want to vote for Isaac, I vote for him as a person, whether he belongs to UPND, to PF, or whatever. If I want to vote for him, I'll vote for him, right? So it was kind of unfair that if the party that he belongs to decides to kick him out, of which me as a voter, maybe I don't agree with the party, then the party gets to replace him without me having a say. I thought that was pushing power away from the people and taking it to the political parties. So I didn't agree with that. The other one I did not agree with was the one of nominated MPs.
Okay.
I do not think we need nominated MPs.
That's still there, though, isn't it?
It's still there,
still
and
there.
they've increased it by 1.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy about that.
In fact, they've gone further. They've
Yeah.
actually gone further, according to the notice of amendment. So, not more than 11 nominated
Yes.
members of parliament.
Yes.
Then it goes on to say, notwithstanding clause 1C,
Yeah.
the number of nominated MPs shall not exceed 5% of the members of parliament holding constituency-based seats.
Okay, I do not agree with that. I have always said that, and it was there in the report of the technical committee. They recommended that ministers should be appointed from outside the National Assembly. I agree with that proposal 100%, but it did not make it to the final amendment, which is most unfortunate. So I was I was against, and I'm still against the issue of nominated MPs. I would rather the president is given power to nominate people from outside the National Assembly to be ministers, because then that gives the executive the chance to an unlimited pool, an unlimited skill set of people to choose from, rather than restricting it to those who are in the National Assembly, who might not be the best that we have, but they're just popular. So I was against the nominated MPs, and well, it is what it is. It's still there. Yeah, maybe some other time we'll get rid of it as we go on. But yeah, that's one of the things I was against. And the other one, I was against changing the qualification of the secretary to the cabinet. I think it's okay as it is. I believe if it's not broken, don't fix it. I do not see anything wrong with saying the secretary to the cabinet should have 10 years experience. Maybe as a compromise, I would have said that maybe we should not just say 10 years experience in the public service, but 10 years experience in general. Like I might have 10 years experience as a lawyer, but I've never worked in the public experience, in the public sector. Does that take away my experience? The answer is no, right? So maybe to just tweak it a bit and say demonstrable 10 years experience in person of high integrity and things like that. So reducing it to 5 years for me, I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that. Yeah. So yeah.
Isaac, there's a question here around democracy. If you have 226 MPs, you then have 40 as well, 40 other members of parliament. You have 11 nominated members of parliament, and if you have, and I'll use what we currently have. Currently in the House, you have 89 members of parliament representing, the party in government. Using the numbers that Malisa had mentioned earlier on about, those 40 MPs, you add another 23, you then add another 11 nominated MPs. Doesn't that distort what you ideally want to see, which is, a parliament that is not necessarily one-sided in terms of majority?
Yeah, I don't think that it distorts that balance. What it does is that it makes political parties work hard.
Work hard.
They must work hard.
Work hard.
Look, you cannot have all these political parties. Every day people are forming political parties and are trying to contest an election. So if our politicians are serious, Luchi, if our politicians are serious, especially the opposition, if they're serious, this is the time they must reflect and say, how do we get a good share of the 40 seats? How do we get good numbers amongst the 226 seats? So it's a question of them working hard. They must work hard. They must find a way of coming together and giving competition. I believe, Luchi, that in a democracy, a strong ruling party like the UPND needs a stronger opposition political parties. We are not seeing a stronger opposition political parties in this country because of the egos surrounding these political leaders. Everybody believes it is my time to become the president of the Republic of Zambia. Everybody believes Mr. Hakainde Hichilema would go in the next election, and I'm just the next one to be in that line. The egos are what is killing our democracy, what is killing these opposition political parties. They will not get seats if they go fragmented. If they go fragmented, they must be sure. This is a fact. They would not get enough seats in parliament. And you will not blame the UPND for getting more seats out of the 226 or out of the 40 seats because they would go in as a united party. That's what it is. Now, I also wanted to just comment on this issue of these 40 seats, Luchi. Part of the legislation that we need should be able to talk about what happens, for instance, when this person who has been nominated by a political party on their proportional representation, a woman has been nominated by, let's give an example, by Socialist Party. She's number one on that party list. And after the nomination, she decides to quit the Socialist Party and joins the ruling party. Okay? There is no provision in the Constitution as to what would happen to that. ECZ is only going to look at number one up to number. If Socialist Party would get 10 seats, they would pick number one up to number 10, and that would include that person who defected to the other side. So we must have a provision in subsidiary legislation. For me, it would have been desirable to put all these instances in the Constitution. When a candidate who has been nominated on the party list decides to resign or has died, what should happen to that candidate? Should a political party replace that candidate? And during which period should they do that? Those provisions are not there. I'm throwing this out because I want our political parties, I want our lawmakers to begin thinking outside the box and say, what is it that we can perfect using subsidiary legislation? Because you are going to have these instances that people are going to die even after they've been nominated. They're on the party list, the closed party list system. They are going to resign and join another political party. Would you replace them or you will not replace them? The law is quiet. So you must make the law speak at this point as we go towards the elections. These seats are going to come, like my colleague has said, they will come into effect in the next general election. But they need to be published. For me, I would urge the government, can you publish these names and boundaries at least by January? At the beginning of January. People need to know where they're going to vote from. They need to know which is their new constituents. You cannot wait until May for you to publish the list and say these are the new constituencies. So government has no time. If the government means well, which I know that they mean well on this matter, they must publish the list by January 1st. People must know to say, I registered in Matero, but I'm voting from Matero North, and this will be my MP. I registered in Mandevu, I'm voting from Mandevu West. This will be the MP that I'll be voting for. Candidates must know where they want to compete from. So it's very urgent that this matter is attended to, and should not wait until the last moment. The political parties, the opposition, for me, they must change their strategy now to begin to tell the government to say, let us have this list. Let us have these new constituencies so that they can begin to position. You cannot continue crying over Bill 7 at this point. Bill 7 is dead. It's complete. It's gone. It has been passed. We now have a constitution. And what I'm happy with the Minister of Justice, Luchi, I'll tell you, when I was part of the technical committee, they gave us a constitution, Cap 1 of the laws of Zambia, which includes the constitution of Zambia, we had the 2016 amendments and the 1996. It has been put together. So they are quite fast now in trying to ensure that these amendments quickly reflect into one document. And I would advise them as a ministry, don't waste time. Immediately the president assents, let us put these provisions together so that lawyers, again, don't go to court with the two pieces of legislation. You have the Act number 2 of 2016. You have now another one of 2025. You have the 1996. You are carrying all those when you can carry one. I think that they have demonstrated as a ministry that they can be very effective because they were able to produce one document, one constitution for us. They should do that so that people can go to government printers and be able to get a full copy. And life moves on. People will be very content. They'll be able to read. All that confusion will go out because government would have given them what has been amended.
Okay. Do you want to make an addition?
No, I wanted to say that the question that you asked him, just to add, if we look at using last year's results, last election, 2021, the President got about 56% of the vote. So if we use that, which means they would have gotten 22 of the 40 PR seats, right? And then 11 nominated. And then if we use 56% as a party, they would have gotten 127 elected seats. So, which is a total of 160 MPs in total, out of a parliament of 277 MPs. You get that? So, it would be a majority, but it won't be a two-thirds majority, because two-thirds of 277 is 184. So for you to meet the threshold, you need 184 MPs. So based on 2021 results, UPND would have been sitting on 160, which is 24 short of the supermajority that we're talking about. So then, I guess what is undesirable is having one political party having a supermajority. Then it defeats the whole purpose of having to reach out. Like what Isaac said, we need to move our politics to a point where, when it comes to decisions that affect the nation, political parties or our political players must have that urge to reach across the aisle and build consensus in decision making, not we perpetuate a confrontational kind of politics. So what we need is a constitution that will ensure that whoever has a majority is forced to go to the other side and get the buy-in from the other side. Like what happened yesterday, I'm told 34 members of the opposition voted with the ruling party. So that means that there was some consensus which was reached, whether we like it or not. There was some consensus which was reached, and that is the system we have, and we need to keep that system in such a way that you cannot change the constitution without getting the buy-in of the other side. So if we have a system that diminishes that, then we have a problem. But if the system maintains that for you to make an important decision as changing the constitution, then both the ruling party and the opposition have to vote together, otherwise it won't be possible. Then that will force our politics to become a bit more civil, less confrontational, and about building bridges and finding the middle ground. So I'll echo what he said, that any budding democracy needs a vibrant opposition. Okay? Yesterday I was kind of disappointed with the debate, with the quality of the debate, because me and him were in court. I think our arguments in court lasted longer than the debate in parliament, which is unfortunate, by the way, which is a tragedy, because you had 135 people there, and then this was a very important debate, maybe the debate of the year. I would have thought that they would have taken the whole day just debating the articles. Someone saying, okay, this article is good. Why is it good? I support it because of this. Tweak it like this. Now, people were just saying, others were just voting. I think there are just about 4 or 5 people who debated. And that is what we need. Like what he said, in a democracy, things should make sense, okay? If you are given a platform, even if you are voting for something or voting against something, you need to give a reason why you are doing that. You can't have 4 lawyers arguing for 2 hours and then 135 people arguing for 1 hour. That just doesn't make sense. It means that most of the people who were voting, maybe they didn't even know what they were voting. So we need to have now to move to a direction. I hope this what you call proportional representation, the political parties are going to bring quality MPs into the House who are going to raise the standard of the quality of debate that is there. We need people who know these things, who are knowledgeable about governance, who are passionate about governance, who go there and talk, because you are representing people. Now, you can't say you are representing people, you just go there and vote. You haven't said what your people sent you to do. I expected MPs to say, oh no, me, the people of Mandevu sent me to say this. You've been given the platform. Why are you not saying anything?
Actually, I agree with you, because in the past, and as you correct me wrong, but in the past, it almost felt like it goes into the wee hours of the night with debates. But this time, I think all of us were a little surprised. I was surprised by lunchtime they were done. Wait. And I even said, wait, I had to ask someone, I had to call someone in Parliament to say, wait, is it done? Yeah. And he says, yes, it's done. I'm like, wait, are they just done with the second reading? It's like, no, we're completely done.
We were all shocked.
We were together.
By lunchtime.
We thought we'd see the third reading, the debates, and but when we came out of court, you were told that, it has passed the third reading.
What?
We said, what is it? So it tells you the quality of debate in the National Assembly.
Is it the quality? Is it the quality of the debate, or the fact that they already went in having gone through the bill and we're very sure
No.
We're going to pass this.
Even when you do that, Luchi, I was in Parliament, in that Parliament in 2016. I think that should be about on the 10th when they were trying to pass the bill, Bill 15, which is now the part of the Constitution. It started from 16 hours. It went into the night. They were still debating clause by clause. Even from the PF, the PF members of Parliament, they were able to suggest amendments, personal amendments, not the ones suggested by government. They would bring an amendment and say, this is an amendment that we propose. They would debate that amendment. They would either vote and it would collapse or it would pass. That's what we saw. In this one, we didn't see that. That accounts to, that should be about 2 things. One, either they were whipped as a party, political parties were whipped, or the quality of debate was just too low. The quality of debate was too low. Because really, you can't pass a constitution within an hour. You pass all these amendments. I
mean, they're just 13.
But what was good?
They're just 13.
What was good, though?
Isaac, they're just 13.
Yes, but what was good?
In 2016, they were over 100.
13 is a lot. Because even just 3 amendments, it's a lot. Now, you see, what is good as well is that it's the first time in the history of this country that an amendment has passed with the highest number of votes. 131 is the highest
135.
number. 135 is the highest number that you could get. Not even the 2016 amendment passed with that. It only passed with 1 vote, 1 above the 2/3. So this is the highest number. Means that the UPND did their groundwork. They did their homework. And for me, when you are passing a constitution, it is something that you negotiate, because you cannot pass it alone as a party. You must negotiate. This is what democracy must be. What we saw yesterday in terms of voting is what democracy is. We must not demonize those that voted in favor, together with the UPND, over this, because they were lobbied. They were persuaded. So there's always persuasion that happens. It is not a strange phenomenon.
Is it, sorry, Isaac, is the strangest thing, and I'll go to the phone lines, I know people want to get in touch, but I have one last question, then I'll take phone calls. But is this a sign that maybe civil society, and I hate to throw civil society under the bus, but is it a sign that civil society did a bad job here in terms of there was so much focus on process rather than actual content? And if I'm an MP and I'm listening to radio, and all I'm hearing is people say the process is wrong, that's all I go with. So, what am I actually going to debate with? And even when I go to the people are asking, and I'm saying this as a constituent of people that call into the show and say, I don't know anything about the bill, that sort of tells you that there was so much ignorance from people, and who knows, maybe even parliamentarians were ignorant.
So I'll tell you something. Civil society did a very good job. And especially us who were trying to advance the idea that these amendments must pass, we tried to talk to our members of parliament. Also those on the other side who focused on the process, they tried their best to try and make their input. And it shows that our democracy is just mature. You had civil society that was divided. One that was saying, no, don't pass the bill, the process. The other ones were focused on the content. This is the content, and beginning to lobby members of parliament to say, this is what we think that you must pass. We were against the issues of by-elections being ended as civil society. And we managed to lobby government. We managed to lobby members of parliament to say, if you pass this, you are killing our democracy. There are things that civil society might have wanted which have not been passed. For instance, the issue of members of parliament going back into the councils. We kept on lobbying members of parliament to say, please, we know that you want to go back into the councils because you are looking for CDF. You want to control CDF. But look at the separation of powers. They didn't buy it. They came back and said, no, in terms of service, to enhance service delivery. What service delivery? Being in parliament as a member of parliament to enhance service delivery, for me, that was a very lame reason that I found. And I'm speaking as a civil society activist who believes in separation of powers. That decision was a wrong decision. They should have stayed away from the councils. We will no longer hear these reports on the misappropriation of funds in Parliament, Luchi. Because members of Parliament will be afraid to debate themselves. Since they'll be involved in the CDF, in the councils, they'll be afraid to debate with vigor, to hold these councils with vigor, because they'll be part and parcel of what is happening there. So we oppose that. But I can say safely that we did our best as civil society to lobby that these amendments must pass. Certain amendments should not pass, and they were dropped, and we are very happy that they were dropped. Things that have been retained, where government proposed, for instance, have been retained and we are not happy, we believe there will be another opportunity to ensure that we can clean up a constitution. I am a believer, Luchi, that Zambia does not need a new constitution. I was telling my colleague the other day in court that, look, I don't believe that Zambia really needs a new constitution. What Zambia needs is honest amendments to the constitution, honest cleanup of the entire constitution. Not really like you come up with a new, completely new amendment. No. The United States of America, they made their constitution 1780-something. They've never come up with a new constitution.
They make amendments.
They make amendments. Every country that is progressive makes an amendment to the constitution. So we must not be against this idea that we can amend our constitution when it is not working perfectly well, when there are problems in it. We must have the courage, the boldness which has been exhibited now to amend. Even the previous regime, the ones that did not vote for these amendments, were with them. I always say this, Luchi. For me, when I believe that amendments is what must be done, I'll go with it. Whether you change as the politicians, you turn and say, no, we don't want amendments, but yesterday you wanted them, I would not turn with you. I would simply say, the constitution which we the people made allows the constitution to be amended. And let us amend the constitution.
Okay. I want to read you. Let me just read a text, and then I want to pick up a phone call. So this is Wiseman. This is a very simple question to answer, Malisa. By the way, Wiseman says, "Good morning. Does this mean that there won't be a third reading of the bill? What leads to the third reading of the bill?" So Wiseman is still thinking about the third reading. I said it was a simple question to answer.
The third reading was done yesterday. Both second and third reading were done. That's why we were complaining that some of us who were in court at that time we were robbed. I think the people of Zambia were robbed of seeing their MPs in action. Yeah. Right? We wanted to see that. Like for me, regardless of the fact that they were whipped, he alluded to the fact of these caucuses are whipped every time, right? You can be told to say our position is this, but you as an individual MP, you must have your own position, even if it aligns with what the party is saying, right? But you must have something of your own that you have to say. Maybe in court sometimes judges might agree on the outcome, but they might not agree on the way to get to the outcome. So each judge will write its judgment. Say, I concur with my colleague, but for this reason. Okay? We can't both have the same reasons. And then I just wanted to chip in on the issue of civil society. I think civil society, they did a good job. I think they did a better job than the politicians. Because the amount of engagement that came from civil society, like from February, they have been at it. And ordinary citizens as well, I think they need a pat in the back for showing that vigilance and taking part in the constitutional making process. Those who were challenging it from a process point of view, those who were challenging from a content point of view, and those who were challenging from both were actually keeping government on their toes. And to echo what Isaac has said, if those things were not brought up, we wouldn't even have had a technical committee if people had just agreed to say, okay, just go ahead. It shows that the citizens are waking up. We have a vigilant citizenry, and government should be grateful that it has civil society, it has citizens who are willing to ask the difficult questions, right? And I'll repeat that the citizens and the CSOs did a better job than the politicians, because the politicians really did little to interrogate. We have evidence. They did a second reading and third reading in under 2 hours. The civil so these guys have been at it. They've got piles and piles of documents like this where they were asking. So going forward, what I would say is that as Isaac has said, I don't think there's anyone in this country who was against amending the Constitution. For me, even me, I was asked on different platforms to say, do you think the Constitution needs to be amended? It's a simple yes. Those who were questioning the process, it's not like they didn't want it to be amended. They were saying, we're concerned about how you're going about it, right? It was the how, not if, okay? And I'll reiterate that a constitution, as a people's document, is a product of consensus, is a product of meeting the minds. It is desirable that a constitutional process is as less acrimonious as possible, right? It is a national document, and we should look at it as such, right? At the end of it all, right, this is a document that governs everyone. It is not just a document for UPND or whoever is in power right now, because even when they leave power, that document will still be here, right? So, as citizens, we need to take part in whatever is happening. The important thing is that take part, be involved in whatever is happening. Yeah. If you are challenged, let your challenge be heard. And I would say those who are challenging the process, I think it would have been ideal if you are challenging the process, you do both, from a process point of view and a content point of view. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go to the phone lines. 22684 and 0978-895-895 if you'd like to get in touch with us this morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, morning,
good
Mr. Lucci.
Morning.
And morning, the two gentlemen. I think they were Mwanza and they were John somewhere.
Mr. Malisa.
This is Brother K.
Yes, yes, Brother K.
Good morning, Brother K.
Morning.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you. Yeah, I should say thank you so much for the information you have given us. But it's too technical to decipher, I think maybe no wonder things were happening in a flash of a second in Parliament. I know. That's my personal view. Now, allow
then,
me to...
Brother K, if that's the case, then shouldn't you be worried about the members of Parliament? If they can't get, if they are supposed to sit in Parliament, enact laws on our behalf, but they think it's too technical and that's why things move quickly, shouldn't you then be worried about who you're sending to Parliament?
Yeah, you're saying, I can't get you very clearly. Just paraphrase it.
You're sounding like a politician now, Brother K. Brother K, it's a simple question. If it's too technical, and that's why you think parliamentarians were very quick yesterday, shouldn't then you be worried about who you are sending to Parliament?
Oh, well, not all of us can be the same. Not all of us can be the same, eh? Not all of us can be the same. Just like Mr. Mwanza who put it that, if it can take so many hours battling it out on the floor of the court of law, and then on the other side it just took a few hours or so. I mean, it differs. Those who are in the court of law, they are learned, they understand. Okay? Some of us, what you have said here, hey, is just Greek to me. Okay? But maybe just to scratch on the top. You see, what I'm saying is that the silent majority have passed the bill. Okay? Yes, some opposition politicians have been claiming that the majority Zambians have rejected the bill. To mislead Zambians who are ignorant, like me, about the issue. Anyway, it's all about politics. These are just players. Some of us are just people who are watching it. So when I say a silent majority, I'm referring to people or society which is orally oriented. They always listen to what others are saying and talk less. But they are going to act violently or forcefully, if you like. As they say, actions speak louder than words, so to say. And the others are oral, just oral. Society who have this natural gift to speak out. We've heard them in Parliament. But less action. And they're in the minority, as it were. This is typically this is the scenario what happened in Parliament. Yeah. Now, coming to the gist, the increase of constituencies from 850, well, that's what we're learning, to 226 is a good idea because it has the dynamics, it's as a result of dynamics of events, such as increase in population, and to develop those constituencies, you need allocation of funds independently but equal to all. And the other factor is the population, the proportional representation involving women, youth, and persons with disability to be appointed to sit in Parliament. I believe women who have a bigger share since their presence is felt in all these three categories. Okay. Now, what
Brother
do
K,
people want?
Brother K, thank you very much, Brother K. All right, 22684109978895895. Hello, good morning.
This is Peter. Good morning, Mr. Mwanza.
Good morning, Peter.
Yes, Mr. Mwanza, I like your speech.
There's also
sorry, Peter. Hello. Hello. Can you also say good morning to my other guest, Mr. Malisa?
Oh, sorry. Good morning, Mr. Malisa.
Good morning.
Madam Malisa, sorry.
Mr.
Malisa. Mr. Malisa.
Oh, Mr. Malisa.
Yes.
Sorry. I joined late. Sorry.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yes, my submission this morning is that, Mr. Mwanza, you've talked about mixed member proportional representation. Now, how is this going to work with first past the post? And is this mixed member proportional representation supports democracy? Can you tell me the disadvantage of this system? Because for me, I think I'm a bit worried. Looking at what I heard yesterday in Parliament, I'm worried.
What did you hear? What did you hear, Peter? What worried you?
Hello?
What did you hear? What worried you?
Because members, look, we had opposition political parties, and we also had members from the UPND. So they kept us, misleading us before the bill. So you need to shed more light. We are misled a lot before the bill was
okay, Peter. So, all right, Peter. Mr. Malisa, you're the one who responded when I asked the question the last time round. Do you want to help Peter, who was misled by people on how the two would work. I think he's confused with how the two interline. But you answered the question earlier on.
Yeah, I did answer that. I said that it will be contained in an act of parliament. The delegated, or should I say the subsidiary legislation.
Don't confuse Peter.
Okay, the act of parliament.
Don't confuse Peter.
So parliament will pass a law which will have the rules and regulations of how this mixed member proportional representation is going to come about. So we will get it from there. Okay, so none of us here know the details. We just know what is there in front of us. The details will come later.
But what we do know, and maybe this again just to help Peter. So what we do know is that in 2026, when time comes for elections and voting, we will still go and vote the normal way for your MPs. Correct?
Yes.
At the end of that process, depending on the outcome of the presidential votes, that's how they will then allocate seats for the mixed proportional representation.
Yes. So what happens is when nominations are being done, each party will submit a list, what they call a party list, of 20 women, 15 youths, and 5 people with disabilities. Each party which will take part in the presidential election. Right? So when they're doing their nominations, that list will be submitted. So when the counting is done, when we know the results, okay, the list now, the seats will be allocated according to how you perform in the presidential election. But based on a list that you have already submitted, you can't submit the list after the thing. You submit it at the start of the election. Yes, so that's how it's going to work.
Okay. So Peter, I hope that answers the question. The question, Peter.
Hello.
Hello. Morning.
Yeah, we just arrived in Luchi at Intercity Terminal. How are you today?
Okay, thank you. How are you, sir?
Isaac and the colleague. Good morning.
His name is Mr. Malisa. Don't call him colleague.
Malisa.
Yes.
Malisa, good morning, Malisa.
Morning.
You have a good name, Malisa. You see, Malisa, what we saw yesterday in Parliament demonstrates the determination, focus by our Republican President HH. The spirit of unity, the spirit of Ubuntu was demonstrated, reflected in the MPs. True democracy was born in our country by one man, President HH. True wisdom was shown in all these members to say, we can differ in these other political parties, but we can agree on one thing, a common goal, and that is the Constitution. President Hichilema has shocked Zambians, and he has continued to shock them by working hard, determination, focus, to show that he can bring the people together. We are asking the MPs that voted for this Constitution to remain focused, determined, and see that they work for the Zambian people. It doesn't matter who is in the State House, but they can do wonders once they have a purpose of why they went to Parliament, like what happened yesterday. To me, I can only say the people of Zambia continue supporting HH and believing in his leadership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, there wasn't a question there, but Isaac, there is a question here from somebody called Gatuso, who says, please help me understand what has changed in terms of the election petition in the new bill. Has it improved?
So the election petition remains the same. The only thing that we have changed is that we have said, we have added the word determined, that within 14 days it would be determined. And I think we have clarified in terms of the actual days, that these are actual days.
Besides weekends.
Besides weekends. So it will be heard and determined within those days without including weekends and holidays. That is what has changed. Then I also want to just quickly comment on the area issue that has confused a lot of people. I think Malisa had put it clearly that if you look at 2016, UPND had 2021, UPND had 59% of the votes. PF Edgar Lungu had 39%. The actual percentage is 38.71 and 59.02. So you round them off to 59. Out of 20 women that have been proposed in this bill, UPND would have gotten 12 seats, because you do 59% of the 20. UPND would have gotten 12 seats. The PF, which had 39%, their presidential candidate at 39%, they would have gotten 8 seats. So you have 12 plus 8 will give you 20. Means that the other political parties that got less than 10,000 or less than 5,000, they would get none, because the percentage already here is that the seats have already been taken, the 20 seats. The same will apply for the youths. In 2021, if this system we had it, UPND would have gotten, out of 15 seats, UPND would have gotten 9 seats, and the PF would have gotten 6 seats amongst the youths. On the persons with disabilities, UPND would have gotten 3 seats, the PF would have gotten 2 seats. Now, how it works is that he has already said it, that the constituency-based seats, you are going to continue voting the normal way you had been voting. But the political parties will submit the list of 20 women, 15, and 5 for persons with disabilities. ECZ, after the results, they would choose the UPND. If they were going to get 12, they would pick number 1 up to number 12,
Yes.
will go to parliament. The PF, they would pick number 1 up to number 8, women would go to parliament. The same with the youths. Number 1 up to number 9 from the UPND would go to parliament out of 15. So the issue here is that political parties now must work very hard to get these seats. If you go it alone and you think that you can get the seats, you might end up getting, the UPND might end up getting 18 seats, and the opposition, you share the 2 seats. That is because you are disjointed. So this is going to enhance our democracy. We must look at it from the lens where it is going to enhance our democracy. Our political parties must begin thinking outside the box to say, how do we effectively compete? Okay? This is what they must be doing now. Do they want to feature 10 presidential candidates such that their votes will be used now to determine these numbers? This is what we must be thinking about. So it's a very good system. It's a good system. It will help our women, our youths, and persons with disabilities, but also those constituencies that were usually bigger, like Matero or Mandevu. You are now going to have at least 3 MPs or 2 MPs at the minimum if the delimitation takes place.
Okay. 2268410978895. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning. How are you?
Okay, what's your name?
You're talking to Mr. Chironda.
Yes, Mr. Chond.
Yes, good morning, the guest.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, Mr. Chonda.
Yes. You know, first and foremost, us as a citizen, we respect the majority in the democratic. Yeah. If the minority say no, then majority say yes. Who are you to say no? Because the fact is that yes, we say that congratulations even to those who are opposing. That's a part of democracy. And those who are saying yes, yeah, we congratulate you. So democracy is something which can pain you. If me, I stand as a presidential candidate, and then I lose, it depends on me, but I respect the people, the will of the people. Because what we are saying that these MPs, we are the one who send you them, and the representatives, all 156 constituencies, standing for all the country of Zambia, 20 million people. If they vote, then you, we as a Zambia, we have voted. And those who say no, few minority, I say no. Then the majority say yes. We say that it goes through. That despite those who are opposing, we are sorry to you, but the democracy, part of democracy. I think, thank you so much.
Morgan, thank you very much, Morgan. Someone else asks, can political parties submit the same names of persons with disabilities, since there are few known persons with disabilities who have shown their commitment to national issues like Mr. Elijah Ngwale has? That's actually a very interesting question. I think it's Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for this. That's a very interesting question. Can they submit, can UPND, PF, and everybody else submit the same name?
You must belong to a political party. Membership of a political party, you can't have dual membership, and then you want to
there's
get
some
to
political
parliament.
parties that don't have cards.
Well, even if they don't have
You can
cards,
chance your luck with NCP, you can chance your luck with ZFP, you can chance your luck. No?
the idea is that you must be sponsored by a political party. And you are competing against other persons who are also sponsored by a political party. So there is still a competition between those on this party list and the others on the other party list. So if you appear and compete against yourself, that would defeat the essence of democracy. Yeah.
True. I agree. It's not possible.
Okay.
Like, what will be the point? I just wanted to respond to the previous caller, although he didn't ask anything. I agree with him that in a democracy, the will of the majority carries the day. That is how it is. And I made a post this morning to say, look, there are people who are blaming the PFMPs that they were bought and things like that. So I was saying, and I'm saying right now, to say, look, this is the leadership you elected. There's a saying that every nation gets the leadership it deserves. So if you elect someone, you have reposited your faith in them to represent you. So what it means is that those people are there in parliament speaking for you, right? So what happened yesterday was that the representatives of the people overwhelmingly voted for the overwhelmingly, like landslide. There was no opposition. So what it means is that is how democracy works. The majority carry the day. We respect. Even if I was opposed to that, I have to accept that is the voice of the people. These people have spoken. They have spoken through their representatives, and overwhelmingly so. It wasn't even a close contest. It wasn't even like it's a split decision.
Yeah. By the way,
it was unanimous.
I asked Isaac this in the morning, but I'm going to ask you this. Were you surprised that it wasn't as tight as
I was.
We all thought it would be?
Yeah.
If there's anyone who says they were not surprised, they would be lying. Okay? I was shocked, actually. That's why I'm even saying that I was disappointed at the level of the debate. I actually thought it was going to go hammer and tongs until maybe late hours and we have maybe one or two votes deciding it, right? I was actually shocked. So I think to answer Mr. Chilonda is that I hope this is a lesson to everyone in this country, that the person you choose to represent you is very, very important. Don't just follow the crowd. Don't follow do scrutinize your candidates, because those are the people who carry your votes. You can't complain now and say, no, government, but you are the one who voted for them. Who voted? It's you who voted. So scrutinize the people who you are sending into that house to represent you, because they are the ones who carry your voice. That is important. But the way democracy works is that, yes, Mr. Peter said we need to give credit to President Hakainde Hichilema. Yeah, here I'll clap for him. It's unprecedented to get that number of opposition members to vote for you. Whichever way he did it, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we have to give credit.
It's excellent.
There is numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
No, they don't.
Numbers don't lie.
Isaac, I asked you yesterday in the morning on the breakfast show. I jumped in when I heard you were on, and I jumped in and I said, "Do you think that they can get 111 votes?" Because I didn't see the path to 101. I genuinely didn't see it. And so when I heard 135, I thought, wait, I thought it was how did they get 111?
And my answer in the morning, Uchi, was that it
wasn't the most confident answer, though.
Yeah. I said it would be fatal for any ruling party or any political party to take a bill to parliament when you don't have numbers, especially on the constitution.
Yeah.
You must calculate that you have persuaded, you have negotiated with people, and that you are ready to take the bill. Negotiations is not about just vote for everything. No, you negotiate. Okay, we'll remove this, we'll take this, because this is what it means. Now, this is the credit we give to President Hichilema and his administration, that really he managed to round up some MPs and got the highest vote in constitutional making process, where it goes to the floor of the House. But at the end of the day, who is the winner of this process? There is no winner and there is no loser. We must never look at this issue now, at this point going forward, as these are the winners and these are the losers.
True.
What has won here is that democracy has thrived. Democracy has thrived. And probably it's also a learning moment for the opposition political parties. How were you dealing with your members of parliament? Were you with them when they went to parliament? UPND in 2016, they had to ensure that all members of parliament were gathered at one place. On the other hand, PF showed that there was no leadership. Because if there was leadership, all of them would be at one place and discussing, okay, to say, this is how we're going to approach it. So, At the end of the day, for me, what has won, Luchi, is democracy. Who is going to benefit from what has happened in Parliament? The PF are also going to benefit. PF MPs have been complaining about the vastness of their constituencies. Their constituencies, most of their constituencies will undergo delimitation. Okay? So it's not like we would say these ones have lost and these ones have won. No. For me, I would simply say there was leadership in this process. President Hichilema, first and foremost, he listened to Zambians, even those that were opposing the process. He brought them together. Sit here, let's sit and talk. We went to State House, sat there, talked to him. Some of us were candid when telling him to say, we don't support this provision, we don't support this provision, but we support this provision and this provision and this provision. We told him why we support the constitutional amendment process itself. Our colleagues also came on the table and said, we don't support the entire constitutional amendment process. We don't even want to talk about content, okay? But at the end of the day, the president had to listen to say, okay, especially that there's there was no court decision then. He said, we're going to defer the bill. We agreed in that meeting. The bill was deferred. The process, the court said, form a technical committee. President Hichilema was magnanimous enough, Luchi, to constitute a technical committee. And I've heard these sentiments from people to say the work of the technical committee was ignored. That's a lie. These amendments that you have seen to Article 47, where now we are talking about proportional representation in the councils, is a work of the technical committee. The fact that by-elections will continue. Yes, Zambians spoke and we also spoke. The technical committee recommended that by-elections must continue. The technical committee recommended the numbers for delimitation. The technical committee recommended the 40 seats for mixed member proportional representation. So when you say that the work of the technical committee was ignored, that's a lie.
Okay.
Yes, of course, there are certain things like ministers being appointed from outside parliament, people submitted on MPs having 2 terms. These were part of the, the mandate of the committee. The committee had a mandate, and it discharged its mandate fully. And I'm very proud of my colleagues on the technical committee.
Okay.
We did our best.
Let me ask you this, and Malisa, you can jump in on this one.
Okay.
Because it's a very interesting question. Tsanga, thank you very much for this. Tsanga, on our WhatsApp line, which, by the way, you can use as well, 0978895895. On proportional representation seats, will they be determined at the first ballot or at the second in an event that the first fails to produce a presidential candidate with a 50+1% result?
At this stage, we don't know. And that's a question that was asked also, I think, during one of the deliberations of the Select Committee. I think it's Honorable Nkombo who asked this. Yeah, I remember this very well. And this is a question that I've always heard. But I think it will sit in the Act. But from where I'm sitting, I think it wouldn't make sense to put it in the second ballot. It should be a result of the first ballot, because the first ballot, that's when you have everyone. In the second ballot, should we go there, there will only be two people, which defeats the whole purpose altogether. So I would assume, but the answer is we do not know because they haven't put it. But it's only sensible that it comes from the first ballot. The first ballot is the one which has all the candidates and all the parties. The second ballot only has 2. If we go there, and the second ballot is not a must. If someone gets a 50+1, there is no second ballot. So it only makes logical sense that it is put on the first ballot. I don't know if there's a consensus.
Yeah, I actually agree with Malisa that we must use the first ballot because we are using the presidential ballot as the standard, not a runoff ballot.
Yeah.
We are using a presidential ballot in an election, and this is about dividing to all the political parties that participate. So his reasoning, if you've seen from his reasoning, to say, in the second ballot, there are no other presidential candidate that you are going to use to determine who gets the other seats. And this contest for the 40 seats is not about the 2 political parties. It is about all political parties that will have presidential candidate in this system. That is what has been put in place. So I think that is the way that we shall go. And for some of us that will continue to make input into the electoral rolls going forward, we need to have these done quickly.
I suppose it makes sense when you hear a lot of political parties talk about alliances. It makes sense, unlike the previous election where you had quite a few presidential candidates. If you have a situation where there are alliances, for example, and that leaves you with maybe 5 presidential candidates, that's much better, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's more ideal in terms of getting that representation in the House.
It's actually much better. And for me, I would go further, Luchi, to tell the political parties, when we'll be amending the electoral law, we must recognize alliances in the law. As it stands now, alliances are not recognized. You cannot stand on an alliance ticket. So when we'll be amending this Electoral Process Act or coming up with the Electoral Systems Act, because our constitution in Article 49, it says that there will be an Electoral Systems Act that will provide for these systems. So how this system, the proportional representation system will work, and the first past the post must now be put in one system, one act called the Electoral Systems Act. Now, we must be able to provide for alliances. Currently, you can't go on a ballot as an alliance. You have to use a political party. So we must recognize that alliances are also associations. In fact, a political party, the way we have defined it, is too narrow. We need to broaden it to ensure that the political party include alliances of political parties so that political parties can feature on the ballot. So people must be on guard. People must wake up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Malisa, before I have to be very careful about asking the next question, but it does keep coming up on our WhatsApp line. The Constitutional Court. I know you said you were in court yesterday. I'm going to assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to assume that you were in court for the matter of whether or not the court ruled that Bill 7 was a nullity. Am I correct?
Something like that.
Something like that. All right. Okay. But so I'm going to ask it I'm going to try and ask the question without, because I know that they could be contempt. Exactly.
Yeah.
Is process relevant still?
At this stage?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah. I mean, going in the future. Maybe not right now. Maybe not until, obviously, we find out. But is process still relevant? Because, people might make the argument and say that ideally what you want is it to be driven in this manner. But again, what we've seen in the past, especially in the past 3-4 months, is that there are loopholes here.
Yeah, process is important. In a constitutional making process, whether you're amending or whatever, the process is just as important as the content. There's a saying I like borrowing from Honorable Garen Kombo. I remember he was questioning the votes. There were only about 5,000 votes. They were insignificant. But he went on record and said, process protects the content. Process protects the content. I still stand by that view, that the process is as important as the content. So in future constitution making process, I'm sure we'll be at it again, because the Bill of Rights still hasn't been amended. And for me, that has always been my rallying cry, that we need an enhanced Bill of Rights sitting in our constitution. So as long as it's not there, I know for a fact that we're going to embark on another constitution making process. And the government has said these ones are non-contentious. Now I'm wondering how the contentious ones will be, because these so-called non-contentious ones were, to me, they were contentious. Right? Now I'm wondering how the really contentious ones will be. But that, as it said, it would be nice that we learn lessons from everything that has happened. Right? They say that anything that happens has to teach us a lesson. So everything that we have done wrong, it hasn't been a perfect process. That I can say. It hasn't been perfect. I hope that whoever is tasked with taking this job forward learn certain lessons from this. The good, the bad, the ugly from this process we need to learn and take something positive forward. Going forward, we shouldn't make the same mistakes that we made this time. For example, starting the process without the technical committee. The technical committee was supposed to be at the start of the process, right? That is a given. Even Isaac will agree with me. So next time when we start, the technical committee should be at the beginning. And also, the issue of trying to get as many citizens on board. We didn't have the constitution, the amendments. Even the constitution right now, it hasn't been translated to the local languages.
It hasn't even been translated to people that are living with disabilities.
Yes, a braille version and you know that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So to make the process as inclusive as possible, these are the things we should look at, those in government, as we go forward, to say, okay, fine. The technical committee only sat at provincial centers. Maybe next time we try and have them sit at district centers as well. I know they spoke of technology, but it's not everyone who has access to that technology in our thing. So in trying to improve the process and to try and legitimize the process and get the buy-in of everyone must feel that they were involved. So we try and do that. I am one who's for the idea that the Constitution should be known by everyone, okay? The educated and the uneducated, because that is how important a constitutional document is, right? So, yeah, we pick lessons, and the process, yes, we try and say, I wrote an article, a very long article, where I was saying, Isaac said we should have Delimitation Act. I also propose that we should have a Constitutional Review Act. We should have an act sitting there which will guide how constitutional reviews have to be done at any time in this country. So that
in the future you don't get yourself in a situation where somebody wants to make shortcuts for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Might be costs. And you're thinking, maybe there's no need for us to go through A, B, C, D, because we've done this before.
Exactly.
We know what people want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people talk about inquiries act. Me, I'm saying we should have a Constitutional Review Act, that every time the government wants to review the Constitution, they just look at the act. What does the act say? What are the guidelines? What kind of technical committee? Who sits in the technical committee? All those things should just be sitting in an act of parliament, so that in future we do not have this acrimony that we had. I think part of the acrimony is that I complained of saying we did not have a legal framework which guides the process, right? I think, Isaac, you were part of the Isaac is one of the people who are fortunate enough to have taken part in 2 constitutional review processes. I think you're part of the NDF, National Dialogue Forum. The NDF had an act, right? There was an act that was guiding the sittings and all things like that. And for me, I think we should now start looking at modeling a constitutional reform act along those lines, which will guide the process. That's what I would say.
Okay. So sorry, Isaac. How can I ask this again without getting into too much trouble? Should our eyes be peering at Independence Avenue, the building with the lady who is blinded by justice? Should we be staring in that direction, or, as you said at the very beginning, you said, well, I mean, look, it's done and dusted. Nothing can happen at this point.
Isaac will agree with me that I was one of those people who were at the forefront opposing the process. I was one of those people, and I'm not ashamed to say it. It's part of democracy. I was against the process because I thought the process was wrong. But where we are now, the process, whether wrong or right or whatever, it has gone forward. Now, of course, people have a right to go to the courts. We went to the courts. We tried to put brakes on the process. The courts did not agree with us. So what can we do? I pointed at Article 1.4 of the Constitution today. That's what I believe, that the Constitution itself says that its legality or its legality or its validity cannot be questioned anywhere. So once Bill 7 becomes part of the Constitution,
but that's only after signing, correct?
Yeah, well, how do you know? Maybe he's already signed. Okay. I don't know. Maybe he's signed. Now, I'm saying, once it becomes part of the Constitution, unfortunately, its validity or its legality cannot be challenged anyway. So for me, I am sworn to protect the Constitution. So which means the Constitution as it is, I have to protect it. Because once it becomes part of the Constitution, it's one constitutional document. And all of us have a duty to protect it. So what I'm saying is this: look, let's take lessons from this. Okay, we tried, we tried what we could do to try and have our views come across, to say, okay, we do not agree with this. We do not agree with the process. We think it is illegal, right? and we had the avenue of going to court. And then there were others who said, no, we need to proceed with the process. And they proceeded. They went to parliament. They got enough votes.
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
So what we can do is try and improve future processes. And I'll still say, and I've said here, and I'll say this to people from the government if they are listening, to say, please, 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 Napapat, Bill of Rights, please look at it. And next time we conduct a constitutional review process, please, let's try and pick what the points of confrontation were, what the points of disagreement were with this process, and try and make the better one better. At the end of the day, those who are opposing and those who are in agreement are still Zambians.
Yeah.
And it's still their constitution. And we should not treat each other like lepers. Like Isaac said, there's no winner or loser. You were supporting, some of us were a thing, but we are still bound by the same thing. So as we go forward, nation building, that's how it is. It's not easy. It's a battle of ideas. And as a government, you should be happy that there are people who are willing to stand up to you and tell you that, no, we do not agree with this. We agree with this. It makes governance better.
Okay, Isaac, in 30 seconds, because I do have one last
So,
question.
in terms of the process, I would say, Luchi, that the problem we have with our constitution is that it allows even an ordinary citizen like me to propose an amendment to the constitution. It allows an MP to propose amendment, to initiate an amendment to the constitution. It allows the president to initiate an amendment to the constitution. Probably it is time that we continue with this work that has started in amending the constitution. We probably continue with the technical committee that has been constituted to ensure that the work gets to be finished beyond just what has been done now. In South Africa, Luchi, they have what is called the Joint Constitutional Review Committee. This one is a permanent body that reviews proposed amendments, the feasibility of the proposed amendments. It doesn't propose bills, but it reviews the amendments and then makes the proposals. Parliament does the drafting of the bills and enacts it into law. So we can learn from South Africa to have such a committee in place because our constitution requires review. And we cannot be doing it on an ad hoc basis. We must do it over a longer period of time. Let's have a longer period of time where you have a constitutional review act that will ensure that we continue with this path that we have started, rather than do it now and then we do it the other time. I think that for me, I would appeal to the president. This task that you have started, let the committee continue to do its task and submit a more comprehensive report so that we can do even a more comprehensive amendment after the 2026 general elections.
Okay. I have one last question. This is really on optics. There are a lot of people who are concerned with, speakers dancing in the House. I'm really curious about, just from an optics perspective, right or wrong, just from an optics perspective.
I felt a bit embarrassed.
Okay. You don't have to say anything else. Malisa, right or wrong?
Doesn't look too good.
Okay. There you go. That's it. That is the program for today. By the way, let me also just mention there was a lot of eyes yesterday on bill number 7, but there were some other bills yesterday that were passed that went up to third reading, and obviously we'll be waiting for the president to assent. There are two in particular that I think people should really begin to pay attention to. So the Independent Broadcasting Authority bill, that was passed yesterday, and the Zambia National Corporation bill was also passed yesterday. And one of the things, and there are quite a few, but one of the things that impressed me about the Independent Broadcasting Authority bill is it finally allows the Independent Broadcasting Authority, who regulate us, private media, but has never regulated the national broadcaster, to finally begin to look at what the national broadcaster does.
That's progress.
Yes.
Progress.
Little progress.
Yeah.
There was no acrimony there, because all eyes were focused on...
Everybody must be accountable.
Yes.
It shouldn't just be the private media. Everybody must be accountable. And we hope they are going to do a good job to make ZNBC accountable. And the private media, basically.
Absolutely.
The public media.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good thing as we are going into an election next year, because historically there has been complaints that the public media don't cover opposition and what. And I think this is a... I think quenyu for the government.
Okay, that is the program for today.